Welcome to the Experience Strategy Podcast, where we talk to customers and experts about how to create products and services that feel like time well spent. And now, here are your hosts, experienced strategists, Dave Norton and Aransas Savas.
Hello and welcome to the Experience Strategy Podcast. I'm Aransas Savas.
And I'm Dave Norton.
And today we're going to talk about a pretty essential skill to succeeding as an experience strategist. We're going to talk about having a strong point of view on your customer and their needs. Dave's going to walk us through some frameworks that he's been creating to help guide experienced strategists who are a part of our experienced strategist certification program. So, Dave, let's kick things off by talking about experience strategy at its most fundamental level.
Yeah, so a lot of companies really don't have an experience strategy per se. They may manage their experience. They may have great technology that's supporting their experience. They may have training. They may design experiences. But to have an experience strategy is something that's fairly unique for a lot of companies. And so I guess the other thing I would suggest is that oftentimes what they have is a brand strategy, and then they execute against that brand strategy, and that becomes kind of their experience strategy as well. But the purpose of experience strategy is really to help create meaningful experiences for people in a way that's going to lead to innovation. It's going to lead to growth. It's going to increase the value of the experience, not just for the company, but also for the people. That's really what experience strategy is about. And we need to do a better job, frankly, as experienced strategists of really understanding what goes into that kind of a strategy.
Before we get into that, I want you to just define what you mean when you say people. Because it's not just customers, right?
Yeah, no, it's employees. It may be the families of the customers.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of different constituencies that we need to be paying attention to. And so I think it's better to talk about it as people than to say customers. It also, I think, helps us to humanize, which is so important, who it is that we're working with. But the principles we're going to talk about are going to apply to employees, to any audience that the customer needs to address, B2B and so forth.
And I'm excited to share too, for those of you listening, we recently launched an Experience Strategy podcast YouTube channel. So if you want to visualize a little better some of the concepts that Dave is sharing today, head on over to our YouTube channel, which you can find just by searching Experience Strategy Podcast, and actually see some of these frameworks maybe a little more clearly than even we can just describe them in words, especially if you're a visual learner. So just a plug there for the channel. So let's dive in, Dave.
So when I think about experience strategy, I'm thinking about defining three foundational things for a company. One of which has to do with what makes the business model compelling for the customer, right? What is it? From a brand strategy standpoint, we think about differentiation. And I'm going to talk about how we think about it, making the business model compelling for a customer from an experience strategy in just a minute. But that's the first question that we have to address. The second question is, how do we describe, or what describes the customer needs? And the third question is how value is maintained and grown over time through the experiences that we create that are hopefully meaningful to the customers. Those are the three foundational questions that we're always trying to address when we're doing experience strategy.
So let's talk a little bit more about those three and why they're important individually.
Yeah. So the first question, what makes the business model compelling? We talked about the fact that in brand strategy, we're looking for differentiation, something that is distinct and easy for the customer to understand. This is what makes us different from everyone else. In experience strategy, we're looking to create what we call a point of view. This is the topic that we want to go deeper around, I think, today. We're going to be very future focused, probably in that point of view. We're going to want to be able to make sure that that point of view can actually be fulfilled by the company. And it's something that everyone within the company can understand, get their heads around, right? That's part of what we're trying to do with the point of view.
And so I heard two main elements there: that it needs to be future focused and it needs to be well aligned with a deliverable promise. So something that the company is uniquely well positioned to deliver on versus something that's just maybe an aspirational idea for their customer.
I think so. I think those are kind of foundational things that your point of view is supposed to do for you.
Yeah. So how does one develop a point of view? What does that take?
Well, that's a great question. And it's there's lots of different ways that companies historically have created really strategic point of views around their what it is that they're trying to do. I think back to some of the things that I've seen, for example, Joe Pine do, who is the author of The Experience Economy.
Yeah.
When he's working with his clients, he likes to talk to them about creating a theme. And the reason he likes themes is because you can kind of create something that's compelling, maybe to the customer. Maybe it's not quite as future focused, but it describes, it helps the organization internally to really understand what it is that you're trying to do. It has basic design principles that are incorporated into it. And so it can be, having a theme can be one way to create a point of view. So when I'm thinking about developing a strategic point of view, there are some elements that I think we typically, Aransas, want to make sure are present. First, we talked about the near future need. Sometimes that's called the should statement, some way of describing how the world should be or what the customer should experience or needs to experience in the near future. That's the first element. The second element is a description of what the company can do kind of going forward. So maybe we need to realign our resources in some way, redirect what we're trying to do. We need to train our employees in some way, shape, or form. We need to create new technologies. The impact, so that's the second one. And then the third element is the impact on the business model. So if we do this, it's going to lead to what? And how are we going to behave differently? So maybe we're going to create more time value for our employees and our customers. That may be the impact on the business model. And then there can be design principles that are incorporated in. And I know, Aransas, the design principles are something that you're really focused on as well. You think that's really important. We've talked about this offline. So those are the elements that I kind of see, those four elements.
Yeah. And what order should we be thinking about these?
I would
or is there
the near future need? Well,
yeah.
I mean, I guess it kind of depends on the format. But I would write that statement first. I would say, here's the near future need. As service and experiences proliferate, our customers will continue to place a premium on their time and attention. That's a near future need kind of statement, right? Then our company can strengthen our relationship with customers by focusing on digital or time spent with digital experiences. Mm-hmm. So that's a little bit of a description of what the company can do going forward. Then maybe by redirecting resources we already employ to engage our customers, we can create more time value for our customers or something along that line. And then something where we say something like our guiding principles or our guiding design principles are, and then list those principles. What that does for you is it helps you to get really clear about what your strategic point of view is. And then you can take it to the next step, right? You don't have to stop there, but at least you have a clear declarative statement regarding where things need to head.
Yeah, and I think it can be really difficult for companies to arrive at that sort of compelling, aligned, declarative statement. But it is work that can truly shift every aspect of the business and certainly the customer experience. And like we talk a lot about the hazard of politics and the intersecting points of view on how to create an experience that really matters to the customer. But I think if we start from a place of understanding where your consumers' needs are headed, you are starting from a real place of strength. Because at the end of the day, in order for the business to survive, you have to have a customer who is engaged and values your experience, hopefully is being meaningful. And so, having just completed the experience strategy trend report, I feel like in the back of my mind, with every choice we were making for that report, I was asking myself, well, what does this mean to the roadmaps of a wide range of companies? So when we say, and I know those of you who listen to the show frequently are hearing a lot about these trends, and I hope you'll keep digging into each one individually. But when we say, what does it mean for my company that wellness and well-being have become a baseline expectation for customers? What does it mean that my customers expect me to support their micro communities and small groups? What does it mean, right? So when we look at those trends, what they are is really, they should be provocations for us to strengthen our point of view, both in terms of our own understanding of our customer, but also in terms of how we energize our organizations about our customers' needs.
Totally agree with you, Aransas. The Trends Report does a fantastic job. You guys have done a great job of articulating these 6 very important future-focused insights that if you pay attention to them, and you say, what are we going to do about this, can really start to inform a strategic point of view for your company. What does this mean for our company? And I think experienced strategists have to do this kind of work. Otherwise, they're going to find themselves in a place where they're very reactive. They're always trying to respond to what their competitors are doing, to what new technologies are arriving on the scene, to different external events. One of the key trends that you talk about is uncertainty is certain. And that's something that we need to be paying attention to. And for a lot of companies, that should be a part of a strategic point of view for them. How do we handle uncertainty going forward? It's actually one of the topics I hope we cover in next year's collaborative.
Yeah, I agree. And I just think the speed of change has really changed. And so as experience strategists, we have to be better tuned in to how those expectations are changing. And we just can't overestimate how deeply and forever our customers' expectations and needs were changed by the pandemic. It was
I was
a
talking
fire
to
starter.
Yeah, it totally was. I was talking to a group within a financial institution this morning. We were running through some of the training that we do in our certification program with them. And we were talking about how channel strategy has changed so much in the last 10 years. It was like 11 years ago, you could have kind of a multi-channel strategy. And today, we're not even sure whether omni-channel really fits the bill. We're talking about things that happen after omni-channel strategy. And that's just a 10-year period of time. Can you imagine if you're not thinking forward, you're already 5 years behind. You have to have that strategic point of view, I think, if you're going to be successful.
It's so true. And then you have to say, oh, how are we uniquely well positioned to meet these needs compared to all our competitors that currently exist, but more importantly, to those who are seeing the needs and are building their entire business from the ground up to directly tackle that need.
Yeah. Such an important work, and it's different work than what marketing does. Mm-hmm. Marketing does important work, but the marketing needs that foundation of experience strategy in order to be really, really successful. Because that's where you as a company are taking a stance on what it is that we do in a compelling way that makes the experience so powerful. And if you believe, like I think all of us do, all of our listeners do, that we're in an experience economy where everyone is buying based on the experience that you create, we've got to have that foundation. And we've got to have something that's unique to your organization. So,
I think too, going back to understanding our customers, I think in a lot of organizations, especially bigger organizations, there's a lot of research going on. There's a lot of customer insight being gathered. And at least in my experience, there can be some competition about who knows our customer best. And I would venture to say that it has to be the experience strategist who know the customer best. And if anyone else is purporting to better understand the customer, something is broken. Something is awry. Because your marketers, they need to know the customer you don't have, the customer you want to attract. But the experience strategists are the ones who need to know inside and out, not just what the customer currently wants, but what the customer will want next.
Yeah. You hit it right on the head. That's exactly right. The experienced strategist needs to be, they're going to be the ones that we hope are involved in the planning and the resourcing of solutioning going forward. So the company should be looking to the experienced strategist and saying, okay, how are we supposed to prioritize things like customer journey work and channel management and employee training and all of the other elements that go into making compelling experiences. And if they don't have a point of view, how are they going to do that work? They're not. They're going to say, well, let's just see what the brand strategy says. That's
right. Well, and I think we get stuck in this idea of like, well, you can't build it if you can't sell it. And that's true. We don't want to waste money on something people aren't going to buy. But if you're starting from customer needs, then you are building something that can be sold. You may not be building it in a way that can be sold. So it's important, right, to look at the economics and the business model, as you're saying. but like the decisions always have to come from a place of customer need.
I think so. I think you're right. And the other thing that a strategic point of view does for you is it helps you get really clear about the what.
Mm-hmm.
And as experienced strategists, we've talked about this before on the podcast as well. Marketing is focused on the who from a big, broad sense, the target audience. Experienced strategy is focused on people and what they are doing. And so really understanding, how can we service the customer in an appropriate way, and what is the what is the thing that in the near future they're going to want, so that we can be prepared for it. Does that make sense? Just thought of that on this spur.
No, it makes perfect sense. I think what we're saying is the experienced strategist is going to focus on the what, the marketing strategist is going to focus on the who, and the operational leaders are going to focus on the how. However, I had to use the most confusing word possible there. However, the how is also going to be influenced by the who and the what.
I like that. That makes complete sense to me. Of course, they're going to work in alignment with each other. If you, from an operations standpoint, do not have the right resources, you can't deliver on the experience that needs to inform the strategic point of view. I just think that so many more brand strategies would be so much more successful if experienced strategists did their part to create that strategic point of view. I want to go back to some examples, if it's okay, of different ways to do strategic points of view. So we talked about Pine and Gilmore. They really introduced this idea of having a point of view by introducing the idea of having a theme. And whether your Geek Squad, for example, Geek Squad is all about a theme, right? The brand is about a theme. Or you're some other company like the W, they have a theme that kind of drives the design of different spaces. I think their theme is warm, welcoming, witty, and wired. Very simple kind of thing. But you don't have to use theming to create a strategic point of view. You can, like Apple does, just have a declarative statement. I would say their declarative statement, you can see it on their website, is bringing the best user experience to the customers through innovative hardware, software, and services. Focus on design and functionality of product, enhancing customer experience, strengthening the Apple ecosystem, and decreasing dependence of the business on the sales of iPhones. If you look at what we're describing, that basically has everything. It's forward-looking. It's describing where we're headed. We're not going to depend quite so much on the iPhone. We're going to be innovative. It describes the what very well. So you can have just a simple declarative statement, or you might have some kind of an insight statement, something that says, when people want, what people want from digital channels and tools is ... and then build your statement out from there. So that's another kind of category: declarative statement, insight statement, theme. You could do a story. You could literally write a story for internal purposes to help bring it to life. Very compelling way to help. Or you might try to do kind of a comparison and contrast. We need to move from where we're currently at to a new place. Or while all of our competitors do this, we want to do that. There's different ways that you can write those point of view statements. It doesn't have to be the same, to get across what it is that you're trying to get across.
So good. And I love that you have a wide range of options here. And I suspect that most people are going to want to do all or most of these in order to get to real clarity, because these are ultimately communication tools. Right? These are a way of saying, I have a point of view. Now let me share it with you in a way that you can use it and translate it into the work that you're doing, so that we are, we talk about how people see color differently. And the truth is we all have a wide range of perspectives that we use to interpret what we are seeing and hearing and experiencing. And I think by having this wide range of tools, what we're offering people is a variety of ways in, so that we can ensure true alignment, but also ensure a truthful execution, something that has integrity to the vision.
I love that. And of course, the other reason to have different ways of formatting your point of view, that kind of builds on what you were saying before, is you have different internal audiences. So, your senior most leadership, the CEO, the president, may very much want a declarative statement, while your teams that are trying to design the next iteration of your technology would prefer to have some kind of comparison type thing. Like, this is what it was like in the past. Here's what it needs to be like in the future. I think having multiple ways of showing that declarative statement or that point of view, it will make a big difference and will help you to execute much more successfully.
Because ultimately it comes into, it starts as a vision, but it becomes an experience that happens on a moment by moment basis in a wide range of channels and contexts and systems and all these other tools that we talk so much about here. So it isn't just a vision on paper, but it is a vision that needs to become an experience.
Yeah. Again, another thought that just occurred to me. As experienced strategists, we rely very heavily on two frameworks to really help us articulate to the rest of the company what it is that we're doing: the customer journey map and the personas. And I think part of the reason why many people are frustrated with the direction of the CX movement is because those tools in and of themselves are no longer enough. We've talked on previous podcasts about some of the challenges with persona work and with journey mapping. I wonder if more organizations didn't start embracing this idea of, here's our strategic point of view on the customer and on the experience, if that wouldn't help to take some of the pressure off what these journey maps are trying to do and help us to bring to life these personas in a way that they can get back to being a little bit more useful for internal audiences. I don't know. I mean, that's something that I think we need to explore in the collaboratives with the collaborative members. But it just makes sense to me that this is a separate tool that most companies are going to need. Or maybe don't.
Well, yeah. I mean, no, I think it's the foundational work that often gets missed or disregarded because we're like, man, we've got a brand strategy.
Right. What do we need? Right. Or people simply have moved into the CX movement and they didn't have enough training, like they were said, here's what a journey map is, go do a journey map, make that happen.
Sounds intuitive enough. Your customer goes from here to there.
Yeah. What else do we need to know?
Right.
They could be asking that kind of a thing. There's a
Yeah.
lot more to it, folks. A lot more to it.
Especially
Your
when
innovation
you
will be
start to
better.
factor in modes, right? You start to think about the modes your customers in and how that impacts their needs from moment to moment.
Yeah, I mean, when we introduce the idea of modes to our clients, they're like, I don't know how to put that on a journey map. And I'm like, well, maybe it's bigger than that. Maybe there's someplace else that we should be putting that. I love what you're describing. But there are a lot of good companies that are doing good work in experience strategy and have been for years. Obviously, Apple is very successful in the travel industry. You've got some great hotel brands. Next week in the collaboratives, we're going to have Chip Connolly, one of the founders. Right? He was on our podcast not too long ago, but one of the first people to really introduce the boutique hotel experience to the world. And he's going to be at our collaborative meetings, and he's going to be talking about kind of his own personal path, which I think is going to be really fascinating. But it was a guy that I don't think he ever had a journey map, frankly. I don't think he ever did personas.
Nobody had a point of view.
I know that he had a total point of view. And because he did, he was wildly successful. Yes. Wildly. So I can't wait to
That's such a good example, Dave, because it's true. Okay. A strong point of view can replace personas and journey maps to some degree. I'm not going to go so far as to say that we get rid of them, but you can succeed with a point of view without personas and journey maps. You cannot succeed with just journey maps or personas.
Not over the long term, not as a growth strategy. And especially not the way that most companies design their journey maps and their personas today, which is a completely different topic that someday we need to
And especially
cover.
Not when you have 15 different cross-functional hands and the consumer pot.
Yet another reason to have that point of view so that those people are not climbing all over each other and
willy-nilly
just
innovating.
Representing their own. Yeah. Right.
I mean, because we've talked in past episodes about the chaos that ensues when customers don't know what's happening in their experience. We're not meeting them where they are and delivering the right experience via the right channel. And I think that really happens as a result of lots of good intention. But if that is not aligned to a clear perspective on what the customer cares about and what they will continue to care about, as well as how they will change in the near future based on the trends, then we're going to lose them.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'm excited about this. More to come on this particular topic.
Quick recap with me, okay? So major keys I heard here that I noted on my own notes are: it's got to be future focused. It's got to be uniquely well suited for your organization to differentiate. It can be used in addition to journey maps and personas, but those cannot survive without the point of view. It can be used as a cross-functional communication tool for execution. What else? There's
different formats. Yep. You don't have to always write it the same way. I think it's ideal to start with a declarative statement like Apple does, but I think you can build frameworks off of this. You can describe it in different ways depending on your audience, and we talked a little bit about those different ways. So,
good stuff. If this is interesting to you, listeners, and this is something that you're struggling with in your own organization, reach out to us. We would love to have you join us for the Experience Strategy Certification Program. This is just one of the many tools that we will be exploring over the course of this 12-week program. It really is everything you need to onboard new experienced strategists in your organization, to increase this competency and leadership within your organization if you already have it, or to increase at a personal level for your professional skill set, your frameworks and tools that you can rely on to have more impact and more value for the people and the companies that you interact with. So come to our website, stonemantle.co. You'll see all the details on the certification tab, and feel free to reach out to us with any questions. We are really excited to hear how you're thinking about these points of view and how you're using them in different organizations. So let's continue the conversation, and we will be back with you next week for another really exciting episode.
Thank you for listening to the Experience Strategy Podcast. If you're having fun nerding out with us, please follow and share wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Find more episodes and continue the conversation with us at experiencestrategypodcast.com.